Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Shlomo Haas for Coopersmith Career Consulting, and with me I have Dr. Sari Rosenberg, who's going to take over for me for a couple of minutes. For those of you who were here last week for our math webinar, you know how it works. For those of you who were not here last week, welcome. This is basically designed to be a little bit of a webinar about the business writing course, and if you have any other questions about other English courses, that's fine as well, certainly. We've got Dr. Sari Rosenberg here, who I'm going to give the mic to in a couple of minutes. I just want to introduce us. We are, of course, Coopersmith Career Consulting. You might have taken some courses with us in the past, and what we're trying to do with these webinars is to, number one, give you a little bit of a feeling for who we are and what we expect in terms of these courses, and number two, and maybe even more importantly, to give you the opportunity to ask questions. For anybody who may be on the phone, you can either call in on the number we gave you, or you can go through your computer in terms of if you want to say anything. But the best way, I think, to ask questions, if you have any questions, is to use the chat box. On this little GoToMeeting bar over here, there is a little bit further down on the bar chat button, and if you click on the chat button, you should be able to see anything. For example, I am going to put something in there. Hopefully everybody can see the little chat window. You might have to push a button to open it on the lower part of the GoToMeeting bar. It just says, I just put it in type here to chat. So if you have any questions, please feel free to chime in. We are going to be viewing and we're going to be taking an eye on that chat button as we move along. And so this is about business writing. And with no further ado, I am going to pass the microphone over to my esteemed colleague and my mother-in-law, as just so happens, Dr. Rosenberg, and she is going to be discussing business writing. But again, if you have any questions at any point, please feel free to chime in. Dr. Rosenberg is just going to be explaining to you what to expect out of the business writing course, how the assignments work. But again, please feel free to chime in if you have any questions.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Okay. All right. Here we go. So let's begin, and let me start by telling you what this course is about. It's called Business Writing, which is a combination of both business and writing. And I think it's very important for you to understand that. The writing part, we assume that this is a 102 course, meaning that you've already taken English Comp 101 and that you've gone through high school for 4 years of English as well. So there is an assumption that you're on a certain level of writing to begin with, although I explained everything to its, the bone, a foundation of writing, and hopefully that will help you for those whose background might not be so strong. In terms of business, when you're doing this particular course, it's not a creative writing course. It's not an analytical essay course. This is a course about business. And at the end of the day, business is about money. And that's what you really have to keep in mind, because when you're thinking of your audience and you're thinking about what you're trying to do and what you're trying to communicate in business writing, you're trying to, at the end of the day, make money. That really is what the bottom line is. The textbook we use is Contemporary Business Communication. You can get it very inexpensively at Amazon, or you can get it maybe in your library or whatever. It's not required for the course. You could do it without it if you've got a very strong background. But for those of you who are not comfortable with the business writing, then you certainly get the textbook and use it, and that might help you even better. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Here? Oh, okay. So the foundation of writing, I just want to go over for a moment. Where to send the assignments is to please email these assignments with attachment either as a PDF or in Word to grading@coopersmithcc.net. Please do not mail in your business writing assignments. We really prefer that you use a computer, that you learn how to use an attachment, because it is a business writing course. And when you are in business, when you do take your capstone, you will be having to use the computer and send your your work done through not snail mail, but actually through email. Now, the foundation of writing. The most important part of writing to remember is that it's about your audience. Your audience is everything. It's not about what you want to say. It's about the way they're going to hear or read what you're saying or what you're writing. So you always want to write from their perspective. You have seconds to capture their attention. If they do not like your first opening 2 sentences, and as in anything, and you know yourself, if anybody has gotten a letter, or if anybody has read an email, or if anybody has just looked at a website, if you don't connect in the first sentence or 2, people will click you off. We have a very, very short attention span in our generation, and you're out. Either you're in or you're out, so you have to be very careful. Quick and clear. The audience must understand exactly what you want to say. You have to make it. Don't try to be fancy. Try to get in and let them know exactly what you're thinking, but know that they're going to be hearing that when they read it. So you want it to be on both sides, so be careful. Most people don't read beyond the first paragraph. This is very true. They'll read the first paragraph and then they start to skim. And then because they've got seconds, people are very, very time-oriented in business and in other ways as well, even in their personal lives. They don't take the time to sit and read a whole dialogue. Get to the point, and the hard part is to get to the point, but not be interpreted as being a rude person or as a very sharp person. And it really is very hard to balance, because when you get to the point and you tell people like it is, sometimes they'll like it and sometimes they'll appreciate it, but sometimes they'll say, oh, she's so rude. She didn't give us, all the, the cutesy stuff beforehand. So it's a very hard thing to balance. It's true. Stay polite. This is in an email and in business writing. This is not the time to start yelling at people. Stay focused and be professional. In an open letter, open with no more than 2 sentences of pleasantries. Don't go on and on and on. Remember the time, and okay, get to 2 sentences. Oh, it's so nice to spend time with you, and then get to the point. When writing, ask yourself how the reader will interpret these words. Very, very important. When you read it back to yourself, you think to yourself, well, if I was that person, what would I think that I was trying to say? Even when unhappy or angry, important to keep it professional. Remember, too, that business writing is a hard document, whether it's in an email. So I know people personally that will not send an email. When they want to yell at somebody, they'll do it on the phone or in person. They won't do it in an email because they know that that will come back to haunt them once they calm down. Even no sarcasm. People don't get jokes, they don't get sarcasm, and you can't go back after and say, well, I really didn't mean it, I was just joking. It doesn't work that way. Keep in mind the reader's background, knowledge of the subject. Remember that you may think that the person on the other side understands what you're trying to say. In other words, if I'm living here in Muncie, and even if I'm sending somebody an email, how to get to my house. So if I could say to some, and I'm not so sure, I can give partial directions to somebody who lives in Muncie, but if somebody's coming from out of town and I try to tell them how to get there and they've never been here before, I have to be more explicit. Be very clear. Clarity is extremely important. Your use of grammar, the choice of words you use, your structure, which means your organization. How do you organize your email or your letter or your memo? Cut out extra words. Use bullet points when necessary. People actually like in business writing bullet points because it helps them. It's like almost like an outline. It's in between an outline and a sentence. Don't waste the reader's time with extra words. People are very, very time-oriented, especially in business. People who work in business get tons of email, hundreds of emails a day sometimes, and they will not sit and read a whole, what we call the whole Megillah. Shorter, more organized documents. Just get to the point. Your tone must match the audience. Audiences are basically the same. Time is valuable. Don't try to sound smart with added complexity. This is not the time to show that you're going for your doctorate. Stay focused on your topic and don't annoy the audience or be pretentious. Just be who you are. Write with confidence. In business, one must be an authority and not wishy-washy. And this is what some of the things when we get to the assignments, it's really important to keep in mind. You want to avoid words should, could, might, think. So here's an example. It would be incorrect to say, we think we need to cut down on extra expenses as it might lead to profitability, because you're not telling the person on the other side what it is, what's the bottom line. We think we need to do it. Okay, so if we don't, then I didn't think that you thought it was that important. The correct way would say we need to cut down on extra expenses to be profitable. Show you are a smart professional. Okay. Content and style. Know your purpose and show that what you have to say is valuable, so that when you are saying something, when you are communicating in a business writing way, you have to give evidence. You have to show that you've got credibility in what you're saying. Understand that as the outcome, you will be perceived in a certain way. So if you're coming in and you're trying to start nitpicking at your employees, or you start to sound difficult, well, then you're going to be perceived as, okay, that person who sent me an email and said that I used too much creamer in my coffee, and then that person will say, oh, so that person is really cheap. Okay, so that's okay, but that's okay if that's the way you want to be perceived. If you're a person that says, oh, I filled up with everything, just go take, and then they perceive you, and then you send an email to everybody. You know what? The refrigerator is filled. You're on your coffee break. Go take as much as you want. So then you'll be perceived as a very generous person. So then you can't come back later and start nitpicking at them. So you have to know yourself, and you have to know what it is that you're trying to say. Show evidence and state facts. You should have meaningful content, not a lot of shallow content. Be sure that your audience understands what it is that you want to say. You may use the jargon accepted and used for your industry, but avoid specialty language for specific departments. So this is really important. So if I'm a teacher and I'm overseeing other teachers and who also have a master's in education, I can use certain jargon with them that I know that they know from having gone through that process of getting their master's. But I might not use that if I'm sending an email to one of the teacher's assistants who just came in, who's 18 years old, who has no background, has never been to college, and won't understand what it is that I'm trying to say. So I would have to use language that was non-specific to education, but will get the point across to that particular person. Okay, and then here you can read that later yourself. Keep it simple and natural. In business writing, it's like you're talking to the person. In a way, you're a little bit more formal because you're in a writing setting, but you're trying to give it the clarity as if you were talking to them. So I'm just going to go over like the first one. So you wouldn't put down at your earliest convenience. You would say as soon as you can. There's nothing wrong if you don't sound dumb when you're clear. So don't be afraid to just be clear. And please read that over to yourself. And here's what they call the BizSpeak blacklist, the things that are cliche that you shouldn't use in writing, especially when we're going to get to the assignment where you have to write up on your resume. You don't want to sound the same, that cookie cutter sounding way. You want to come in and you want to be a little bit different, so you want to get rid of that jargon. And you can look that over yourself, please. And now let's get to the assignments. All assignments must be accompanied by a header page with the following information. This has nothing to do with the assignment itself, but it just lets us know who you are. So we just need your name, and please use your legal name. If your name is Rivka, please don't come in as Rifki and then change it later on. Tell us, and if it's Rebecca with Excelsior or one of the colleges, please tell that as well. And be consistent in your name whenever you hand any work to Coopersmith, because we've been finding that that's a problem as well. If you get married, mazel tov, but you can't go change your name and tell Excelsior and then not tell us and hand in your work under your own name, because then everybody's confused, and then when it comes time for transcripts, we have a problem. Also, please give us the last 4 digits of your social security number and your date of birth, because sometimes we have more than one, Rivka Klein or Sarah Schwartz. Tell us the college that you're attending and an email to where your grade should be sent. And then each page will have a separate header on it, and that's going to be the MLA style, which I'll go over now. We're going to be using, because you're going to be using for your capstone, I'm not sure if they use the capstone, I guess it depends on what you're doing it in, if it's MLA or APA, but would follow the same kind of formatting. So I'm going to go over, since business writing requires MLA formatting, we're going to be using that one as an example. And know that I'm just going to be giving you the steps here. I've tested it and retested it over and over and over again, so that the instructions are extremely clear. If you go into Word, I'm trying to, for those of you who don't have a Word background and who are intimidated by computers, that's okay, because so am I. So this is really MLA formatting preparation overview for dummies, because that's exactly the way I am when it comes to computers. It's not my generation. I'm very, very challenged at computers, so I really do get it. And these instructions actually do work. So what you want to do first is open your Microsoft Word to a blank document. Set the line spacing to double space, set all the margins, and here it is. I'm going to go into details afterwards. This just gives you the overview, but when I go here, I show you exactly in pictures exactly what to do. So now what you're going to do is you're going to do the line spacing, and that's going to be double spaced. So you go to the Home tab, click on line, and I have all the pictures here, so that when you go into Word, just look for that little, because you're not going to be, see, we call that the line and paragraph spacing button, but it doesn't have a name on it that says line and paragraph spacing button. So for somebody like me, it says, okay, you're asking me to go there and I can't find it. That's why we circled it in red, and that you should be able to find it easily. When you click on it, you're just going to change to 2.0. And then you're going to set your margins. You're going to click on Layout, click on the little arrow under Margins, and you're going to choose Normal. And then you're going to set the font, because and sometimes, first of all, we do everything in 2016, which I think is also compatible to 2013. I don't go back to 2010. This is either 2013 or 16. So you go to your Home tab, choose the Times New Roman font, but you're also going to be doing, I think it comes automatically in 11, at least on mine, so you would have to just change it up to the number 12. Then inserting the page header. What you want is now to have a page header, and every page it's going to say your last name, and then it's going to go 1, and then the next time another page comes up, it's going to be your last name and the number 2. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Click on Insert from the tab ribbon, and then click on the little arrow under the header, that little arrow over there under the header. And then this is going to scroll down. And then you're going to go to the bottom where it says click on Edit Header. And then you should see this. Then you're going to press Tab on the keyboard twice, and then you're going to type your last name. And then you're going to hit the space bar once after your last name, and make sure the cursor is there after the space. You're going to click on the page number arrow, click on your current position, click on plain number, and everything is right here. It's explained. And then you're going to click on Close Header. And then what you have there is your last name is going to come up on top with the page number 1. So now you're out of the header. Now on the first page only, it's required in MLA that you give the professor information, which is separate from the assignment, because I don't want you to get confused because you're doing memos and you're doing Brantford's. This has to be on the first page, and then you begin the assignment after that. So it would be your first name, your last name, your professor, your course name, and the date. And you can use either Stephen Haas or you can use Dr. Sari Rosenberg, and that will be fine. Back up. Be sure to center the title of your document. Indent the first line of the paragraphs to 1/2 inch. This is done by pressing tab on the keyboard once or pressing 5 times, and you can use the ruler if you like. Okay, and this is an example of what the first page of your document looks like. And now, how to add citations and sources. The only time you need in this course is MLA sources will be in number 4, when you're doing the research for the carpal tunnel syndrome. Other than that, there's not going to be any citations and sources in this assignment. So this is going to help you. And again, everything here, just do exactly what it says and you'll be able to get through. This shows you citations and sources. And then you just fill in on this page, the dialog box is where you got your information from. What I do give you within this course, and I'm going to re-mention that again in assignment 4, is I pre-give you 4 articles, academic articles on carpal tunnel syndrome, so you don't have to go out and get other research yourself. The research will be given to you if you want. You could use obviously other research as well, but that's there, and then you would just fill in the information. Now, citations and sources, which will look like this. You just follow the directions and you'll be fine. Now, at the end, when you're done and you go back, bibliography the word bibliography is actually used for APA. And it's used for MLA, it's called works cited. So you'll go into, at the end when you're completely done on the page, you don't even have to type in works cited. It's going to come up automatically when you follow these directions. Okay, and for further information, you could go to Purdue Online. Okay. Now, let's do assignment 1. Part 1. The problem is, this is the assignment. You're the head of the catalog sales department at Brantford's, a large department store located in Miami. Most of your 17 full-time employees are high school graduates, and many of them are female. For beginning workers, you pay $2.50 per hour over the minimum wage plus fringe benefits. Send a message to your employees informing them that management has decided that no one can take vacation or personal days during the months of November and December. The reason, of course, is that the holiday season is your busiest sales period. So now you have to understand, when you're doing an assignment, you have to understand the assignment. So I break it down for you. The second part of the assignment is the process. Compose a few paragraphs describing how you solve this problem in narrative form. Provide information such as the following. What is the purpose of your message? And all you really have to do here is, this helps you, before you even begin to write your assignment, it helps you to answer these questions. And the reason why is because you prove to yourself that you know the answers, and that you're going to be able to stay focused when you actually write it up. So you're going to write down, and you just have to hand in assignment 1, part 2, a page, what is the purpose of your message, and then just answer. Describe your audience, just answer. Will you use direct, just answer. What reasons can you give for your decision? Answer. How can you stress your attitude? Okay, just answer this. And then, now, in terms of letter or memo, it's preferable probably to use a letter, because you've got to, the reason why is you have to, according to the assignment, you have to come up with a lot of words. So it's a little bit, and you also need a heading. So once it says, you wouldn't have a heading necessarily on a memo, but you would have a heading on a letter. Okay, analyze the assignment part 1. You are the head of the catalog sales department at Brantford's, a large department store located in Miami. Catalog, internet sales. Catalog means internet sales. So many people get this wrong, and I sometimes think that they're just not reading it or trying to understand, or not even trying to understand, just don't, I just see Miami and think, okay, so now we have people in the store who are floor workers. A catalog department, they happen to be located in Miami, and it happens to be holiday time, but the catalog department is not dependent on the vacationers in Miami come the holiday season going shopping in the store itself. The store's Miami is irrelevant to the assignment. Salespeople deal here with phone and email orders. Most of your 17 full-time employees are high school graduates, and many of them are female. Most means not all. And high school graduates, some may not have finished high school, and some might even have a college degree. Many are female, not all, some may be male. So that when you write your letter, what other mistakes that people have made is they've written just to the women, and they've written thinking that they're high school graduates, that they're actually young women. And in many cases, because there's nothing here, because I think it's the word 17, they think, okay, they're 17, and people start thinking, oh, like they're 17 years old and they're high school graduates. There are many women who work actually in the workplace at jobs like this who are single mothers and who are older. So their age range could be anywhere from 17 to 60, so that you wouldn't necessarily target this group one particular way. Oh, okay. Oh, yes, we want both. Thank you. We want both the answers to the questions, and it doesn't have to be long. Remember, business writing is about being short and to the point. As long as you get to the point, don't fluff it up. None of us are looking to read fluff. It needs to be to the point when you answer the questions, and then, so you really want to do that. It's two parts, so that we know what you were thinking, and then you want to do the assignment itself. Okay. Direct versus the indirect approach. The direct approach is, because what does that mean? Am I using a direct approach or an indirect approach? Direct approach is your request comes at the top of the letter, know your audience will. So the question is now, let me just explain to you because you could read this yourself. Are you going to say in the first sentence, okay, people, no vacation time for you? No going up. You first have to understand that to the average person, anywhere between Thanksgiving at the end of November and January 1st, this is vacation time, and this is holiday time, and this is family time. People like to take off from work and go on vacations, and that's really important to them. So an indirect approach would probably be better in this case because your employees are not going to want to have to be stuck, even though they make $2.50 more an hour, and even though they get fringe benefits, and they're very happy for it. People tend to also come and go. In these types of jobs, whenever you're talking about low wages, they'll work, especially if they're younger, because we don't know what their ages are. They will go from, they'll stay for a few months, and then something better will come along, and then they'll take off. So they'll say, look, I don't need this. I'm out of here. You know, why do I want to take off? So you want to know, an indirect approach would be better with them, knowing that they might not be that happy about the new rule. So again, we continue to analyze it. For beginning workers, you pay $2.50 per hour over the minimum wage, although some employees may not be new and are earning more, so that given that they work, this is a generous starting salary. Send a message to your employees informing them that management, it's important to remember who's saying this. It's management has decided that no one can take vacation or personal days during the months of November and December. It's management, not you. You're the supervisor of the department. So that gives you a great out, because you're saying, look, you know, management, it's come down from on top. What do you want from me? Management has said that this is the way it is. Okay. Understanding this audience. People require specific information. Tell them what will be expected of them and explain the decision. Most people are reasonable and react fairly. Just explain to them what all of this is about. Don't talk down to them. And I've heard and I've read some assignments where people have written in on this assignment and said, given that you're just a high school graduate, you should be so grateful to even have this job. That's why when we're telling you that you should not take a vacation during the months of November and December, you should just be grateful for where you are and then just, not say anything. That is not a good thing in business because you want to keep your employees happy as well. People want to know what's in it for them, and this is important. People, do not give away too much. I've also, your objective and your goal is to clearly state to them that they have to be there for November and December. However, your reason for doing this is because you, as a representative of the company, remember it's about the money. Expect to make the most money from this time of year. But that's the business's money. It's not going to low-level workers, and it sounds cruel and it sounds hard, but it's an agenda, and this is business. Your agenda is to make the most money for your company. We've had people who've come in and said, and they've got points taken off. They've said, if you come in and stay through Thanksgiving through the holidays, then afterwards we're going to give you a 2-week vacation to any place in the world you want to go. Well, nobody in business is going to do that. What you're going to do is you'll throw them a holiday party, you'll give them a little lunch, but you're not going to be giving away all the profits that you're expecting to make during that holiday season. So please think like business people. Okay. Assignment 1, Part 2, what is the purpose of your message? You want the employees to show up to work during your busy holiday season. Describe your audience. Just refer to the previous slide. Will you use a direct or indirect approach? You can go through all of this. What reasons can you give for your decision? Give a fair explanation. Let the employees think that you understand them. Oh, I understand how much the holiday season is important to you and your families. So you want to make them feel like they're being thought of. You want to validate their feelings, but at the end of the day, you've got an agenda and you want to get that through. And also you're going to do an letterhead, which is why we're going to keep it as a letter. And your product, compose your document and follow the 5 steps of writing process for yourself because it helps. And then all we need is your final version. We don't need any of your 5-step, the planning, the drafting. We don't need any of that. We just need your final version on letterhead stationery, which you can easily make up a little letterhead in Word. That's fine, nothing fancy. Okay. Letters. Purpose of a business letter. I'm just going to give you some background here. Purpose of a business letter is official notification. That's the only thing you really have to know. This gives you, you can just read this yourself. You should use the letter format because what it does, a letter, so that there's no if you say, look, I didn't get my email. So when you give a letter of notification, you say, look, everybody on the list got the letter, and also warn them 6 months in advance. You're not going to obviously send out this letter 2 weeks before Thanksgiving when 6 months in advance people have already made their plans. And also don't forget, too, that sometimes people have, and you need to distinguish between sick days and vacation days. And you need to see if there are special circumstances that are going on in their life, then they can come and see you when you want to show that you're clearly that you are a caring employer. Letters be direct, be personable. Okay, this is all just very, very clear. Let's move on to assignment number 2. On the next 2 slides are 2 emails that were sent in anger by supervisors to subordinates within their company. This is exactly what the wording is of the assignment. First, explain why these emails are poorly worded and phrased, and explain how you would communicate the same messages in a more effective manner. Finally, redraft replacement emails. There could be more than one for each email below. Finished product will be 2 pages. Page 1, answers to the questions, which is just, you just going over some of the words. Yeah, the guy sounds, like an imbecile. What is he yelling at these people for? That's basically it. That's because that's exactly the way he sounds. So that you just take out the words and say, that really wasn't a good thing to do, and that would not be productive as somebody who is an employer. Page 2, create a letterhead and compose a letter. Oh, no, that would not be that. You're actually creating a memo. You don't need to have, for this page 2, you don't need to have a letterhead for that. That would be a mistake. This is just a memo. Assignment 2, that's just repeat. Here's the assignment 2. Hi everyone. You all obviously have no respect for our email system. Your inboxes are much too big and we are often having to recover lost information. I have better things to do. Also, big inboxes slow down the server. Starting tomorrow, we will check all inboxes. If you have more than 250 messages, and your inbox will be temporarily removed and you'll have to follow instructions in order to get it back. This is easy to avoid. Just take a few precious moments out of each day and move emails to folders where they belong or delete them, Jack. Congratulations, Corey Shields, with the biggest inbox. Okay, so we've embarrassed Corey Shields. That's the first thing that you would notice, and you can see that he has absolutely no respect for his people. The second one are expense reports. I'm looking at your recent expense reports and it's making me crazy. So what this person did, what Zach Fraser did to his employees on both these emails, and you can just read them yourself, is he just spewed anger. It is just an inappropriate way to treat your employees without these are not students in the school, and you would never even do it to students in school. This is not your field. You don't treat people this way, but certainly not employees. When he says Sam, Peter, John, Melissa, and Martha, we have absolutely no way of knowing if Peter is Sam's supervisor. He's just embarrassed a bunch of people who are working there, and you would never want to do that. So if you decide to send one, I recommend that you send specific emails to each person. You can do it in one email, but then you just have to make sure that you're clear about what the subjects are, whether it's, the hotel, what the costs are involved, because you want to bring this up, but certainly do not bring up anybody's name if you're doing one email instead of for each person. Read and reread these emails and identify why. What is the purpose or agenda of the author? The purpose or the agenda of the author may be, and this is very important in business writing, your purpose is to stop them spending so much money. The problem is if you make an enemy of the people who are working for you, then you're going to have, that will be a problem. Is it possible that Nellie doesn't even need a letter? I'm not sure what can you just be a little bit more specific on that question? I'm not sure I understand that. Okay. So this one would be done through a memo. Hold on. Okay, go ahead. Okay. And now go to, okay, thanks. Okay, advise how to revise emails 1 and 2. Well, both instances, the manager does not treat his employees with respect. Never use all caps as it looks like you're yelling. All caps is the accepted version of I'm yelling at you. Write with control and professionalism. Be polite yet firm. For assignment 1 or 2. For 2, it should be a memo. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that much, but I would say probably sending them an email, only because it was given as an email. So I would probably send it back as an email. Yeah, if you do it as a letter, but it should be based on the assignment itself, and the assignment is a memo. So I would keep it to, if the assignment is given to you as a memo and you're asked to revise the email, so then what your job then to do is resend it back as a better email. And so stick to what the assignment says. So I would not use a letter for assignment 2. I would use a memo. And I think that that's the way it should be done. Never discipline employees publicly, write each one separately. Clearly the author was angry and writing on a highly emotional level. Revise with the focus to meet the actual agenda, which is not a purging of emotion. Revision is not proofreading. Revision is to rewrite and to adjust sentences, cut ideas and add missing ones to keep it to your agenda. For new policy in assignment 1, a reminder and oh.
I think that could be part of
Oh, okay.
the revision, saying this
right.
person shouldn't have been disciplined that much.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Oh, okay. So you're talking about the person who didn't, who was taken out because they had over 6,000 emails? Oh, not in the policy. Oh, so not in the policy.
In other words, is that could be part of the student's. Sorry,
oh, sure. Go ahead.
Sorry, now I think I understand what the question is. In other words, the idea is that I think one of the things that you could do in your assignment is to say that Nellie shouldn't have been discussed since it's not that big a deal. I think that's definitely a legitimate component, of your answer. So yeah, I definitely think that that's the sort of thing that might appear in your assignment. Say, okay, one of the things I'm doing is I'm telling everybody what they did wrong, but I'm going to leave Nellie out because it's just not a big deal. I definitely think that's.
But what Nellie did was a big deal because it cost money to the company. Oh yeah, right. What you want to do is mention the things, but do it. The role is, because you had set the agenda. Clearly, this bothers the employer. We can't say when readjusting this that the employer was completely wrong. Clearly, people were overspending. That seems to be a problem because there were cheaper ways to do it. And clearly people were spending his money. And I think there's this, just like we have to understand the audience, we have to understand the employer. And it's about the money. So the employer is upset because he feels like people are taking advantage of him and he's not getting through to his employees. And it's certainly the one with the number one, which is our server is going to crash, people. I keep telling you, this is probably not the first time, check your inboxes and everybody's taking advantage of him. So is he going to come in like this angry despot that's going to start yelling and like screaming at everybody? Or is he going to say, look, the bottom line is this has to be done. The bottom line is we can't spend money on this. The bottom line is, so it's a matter of communicating what the agenda is, but you can't take away from what the agenda is on the employer's side. And the only thing is, what you have to do is create a way of communicating that just clearly, get your point across, but don't be insulting and don't make an enemy along the way. But just like we have to care about the audience, we have to care about the employer's agenda as well. Okay, presentation of a memo. When you compose a memo, that section should be single space. So I just want to tell you for a moment, because you've been working in double space. All the work that you've been doing is in double space when you're doing these assignments. But when you create the memo itself, what I want you to do is go back in and I show you how to do it. Choose 1.0 and just for the section of the memo, work in 1.0 spacing and then go back to 2.0. You wouldn't lose points for doing it in one email. To each person gets the point across better. But when you do it, make sure that you don't mention people's names and that you're being very clear on each specific item which bothered the employer. Oh, sure.
I mean, I definitely also agree that one email can get the job done here as long as you illustrate what the problem is, without being offensive to any one individual. For example, like on the subway issue, you might say, in general, everybody please note that we expect all our employees to try to take the cheapest method of transportation that is practical in the circumstances. And that way, you've gotten the message clearer. You've gotten the message there that we don't want people taking $50 cabs when they could have taken $2.50 in the subway, but you haven't called anybody out by name in that respect.
Okay, but here's the issue too. Your job as the employer, when we're talking about clarity, is to make sure that you cap the price. So if you say, because what to me is not expensive and to somebody else is not expensive, so they don't understand what you're saying. So that would say, so you need to be very, very specific in your rules that you're doing. So
hello? Who's this?
Oh, so what you need to say is, we prefer everybody take the subway to their business meetings. If you need to take a taxi anywhere, please check in with me or with Bob or with somebody else, with Mary Sue, whoever handles that, to get pre-authorization. But you need, going to restaurants, you can't say about when it comes to the restaurant issue, pick less expensive restaurants. You need to say, we cap all business luncheons at $25. Now, you could pick a restaurant, but you have to know lunches do not cost more than $25. Then this way there's no confusion, but once you start using words like less expensive, more expensive, it's nothing specific. It's only going to confuse them, and they're going to say, look, you didn't tell me how much I could spend, so I spent what I thought. To me, it's not a lot of money. Why are you so cheap? Okay, here we go. Okay, assignment 3, moving right along. And this one is really easy because we give you, in this one, to the Yippee, we give you an example of how it should be written. It's a bad news writing. These poor people are going to be losing their jobs. Yippee is a company based in Vallejo, California that provides various services for online users, and unfortunately, it's just not doing well, and the people are going to have to be cut. So for those people, Yippee will be offering job placement assistance and a generous severance package. Now, a generous severance package in the assignment doesn't tell you how much that is. So you do have some leeway. Now then, one of the mistakes that people have made along the way is, if we can't find you a job, we're going to pay for you for the next 2 years. We're going to keep you at your salary. Well, what's the point of getting rid of them if I'm spending all my money on the severance package? So that you have to think of like a business person too, because don't forget too that if they are leaving, they will be getting unemployment. So we wish you well, and we're going to try to help you as best we can. Oh, sure. On assignment 2, you have, let me just, I don't even have to go back. I could just explain. On assignment 2, you have 2 pages. One which is just, you do part 1, part 2, and you explain, just in a few sentences on each one, why you felt that those were offensive and what did that person do that would be considered to be incorrect and why that would not be, acceptable way of doing things. And then you have on one page, it's like actually, 3 pages, 3 or more pages. Then you have another page, which is a rewriting of the first essay, the first memo, which is 250 emails, and you just rewrite that correctly. And then the third page would just be, you would just be explaining there what was, it's just a corrected memo for that one, or separating it into each person so you talk directly to each person. But that would be, so that's actually, 3 pages, 3 small pages, not a lot of work on it, but just keeps it clear. Please draft an email memorandum that will be sent to all 18 of Yippee Video Streaming Department employees to let them know the bad news and give them the essentials of this information. Please try to make the email sound as nice and calming as possible without leaving any out essential information. And then over here, we give you the sample answer, which you can basically play around with and change around with to meet the criterion that was raised above. I'm going to go on to assignment 4 now because we're running out of time, so I don't want to spend too much time. Assignment 4 is where you'll use the citations, and this is for your carpal tunnel syndrome. Please do not cut and paste from the internet. We put it through plagiarism check. Please do not do that. Please, 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 because we will send it back to you. Our grader, she's really tough on that, and she can just smell out that plagiarism like nobody's mama. I'm telling you, don't go there. It doesn't work. We will find you out. So don't do that. I have also attached that you can get from your advisor if you don't have it, is I do have for you 4 emails that are four articles which are academic in nature, which will help you out. So I think that that's a good thing too. So let's first try to understand what the problem is. The manufacturing facility where you work employs 3 data entry operators who work full-time keyboarding, production, personnel, and inventory into the computer. These 3 people do a lot. If you look at them, they're full-time keyboarding, production, personnel, and inventory data into the computer. So they run the company, these 3 people. This data is then sent by a secure internet connection to the headquarters microcomputer, minicomputer, where it becomes part of the corporate database for financial production and personnel management. You get one person out, you could get backlogged because these 3 people are doing a whole lot. Last year, one of the operators was absent from work for 2 weeks for condition diagnosis carpal tunnel syndrome. Now, some people might say, that's just a way for them to get unemployment. But the truth is, there really is something for having your fingers in a certain position all day long. Her symptoms included yada yada, and then, however, just last week, a second data entry operator experienced similar symptoms. Her doctor diagnosed her ailment as repeated motion illness or repetitive stress injury. Got the same thing going on. Now, because the company anticipates further automation in the future, oh, sure. Yes, you are. Yes, we are. We do have the 4. I'm not in this one, but it is, oh, sure.
Sorry, I just want to mention one thing. You want to over first? Sorry. I just, you might have gotten a flash drive before we started including this. The slideshow that you're seeing right now is on the latest version of our materials, and so are the 4 articles that we're referencing now. So just in case you got a flash drive that was produced before we put this in, I'm going to give you the link. I'm going to put that in the chat window right now. You might want to open that, or you might want to save that to your favorites or whatever it is. If you click on that link right now, which I'm going to click on that link and show you what you see when you do. Here, you should see. Let me open a new browser, and when you click on that link, you should see this. All right, 1 second. No, okay, 1 second. Let me actually get it into the URL bar first. Right. There we go. Okay, this is what you should be seeing if you click on that link, and this has all of the. Don't worry about the members; that doesn't matter. What you should be seeing all of these. There's a folder over here for research articles for assignment 4. There's this latest crash course, which is the one that you're seeing right now. If you click on the one that says research articles for assignment 4, you should have access to all of these. You can click any of these, and then once you do, you'll be able to download these as Microsoft Word files that will be on your computer. So using that link, you should be able to now have all the latest information. In fact, even if we make changes, tomorrow or the next week or whatever it is, we might go ahead and add and tweak the files and all that. So this link should actually always give you the most up-to-date information, even if you have a flash drive that's a little older than that.
Thank you. So now, the issue is that the boss comes and says, because the company is now going to hire more data entry operators, you've been asked by your boss to gather information on this condition. Once the extent of the problem is known, she wants you to make any appropriate recommendations regarding the work environment, the posture, the furniture, work habits, rest breaks, and the like that will alleviate this problem. Okay, so let's identify what are the real goals of your research. She wants you to make the real goals is she wants you to come up with a solution. So what you're basically telling her is, I am going to tell you what the problem is, because she obviously doesn't know. Remember we said we always talk about the audience. She's coming to you. If she knew what carpal tunnel syndrome was and she understood it, she wouldn't be telling you to go out there and research it. It's not an academic paper for a science class. It's in clear English. You have to give somebody who doesn't have a lot of time, she's your boss. Her attitude is, listen, cut to the chase. Tell me what the problem is. Identify the problem and then let's offer a solution. That's your job when you do this assignment. For further research, just as an aside, I just want you to know that I got those 4 articles. There's a wonderful site for any of you who has to do research. It's called Questia.com. They charge a nominal fee per year, and you get upload all kinds of academic research is done on this site. So that's just, I wanted to throw that in for any of you who needs that. The compose a report following the 5 steps. We're not looking for that. It should be 1 to 2 type pages long. But don't forget, when you do this in your product, you're writing to your boss. So you would say on it, to Shelley, Shelley Long from, Sari Rosenberg, and, and then the title is, the issue, and then speak to her, write to her. Just don't hand her in this academic essay on carpal tunnel syndrome. Say, I write it in response to your questions about carpal tunnel syndrome with our employees. I've done the research that you've asked for, and then just give them the research and then offer the solutions. Now, pictures are always good to have, by the way. Here's the process. Compose a few paragraphs describing how you solve this problem in narrative form. You just want to, and the reason why page 1 to stay focused, before you go to the report, it helps you, it's kind of like helping you outline it. Part of the problem is if you're not used to doing research, and this is, for some of you, may be your first time in doing research, it becomes a very overwhelming experience. So by staying focused and answering these questions on page 1, it helps you just organize better how you're going to actually do your final report. So you would want to hand that in, and then you would want to have page 2, which is the report itself to your supervisor. Okay, assignment 5. Employment communications. Find any job listing and copy and paste or retype it at at the top of your answer. The job listing could be from a local newspaper or any online source. Please prepare a cover letter that you would send to apply for that position. Although you do not need to include your resume in this assignment, your cover letter should reference points on your resume, or points would be on your resume if you had one. Okay. At a minimum, the cover letter should introduce yourself, describe your basic credentials for the job, express an interest in the position, explain why you would be a good fit for the position, discuss something about the company and why you want to work for that company specifically. Your letter should be 1 to 2 pages long, roughly 500 to 1,000 words. Your cover letter should be engaging, it should be informative, it should be all these things. Now, here's the issue with the cover letter. Let's say that you're applying, where so many of you do, apply for a teaching position at a job. No offense to the teaching profession. We're here to, to process teachers and to educate all of you. But to the people who are hiring, it's a dime a dozen. And it's cookie cutter, cookie cutter, cookie cutter. What you want to do is you want to engage, because remember, you've got those first 2 sentences. When they read that, they want to see something about you. Show a little personality. Show that you are something a little bit out of the box. Yes, you're in the box and you've got the education and all of that. But what you want to do too is you want to demonstrate to the reader, to the audience, this person sticks out in my mind, because they're going to get 100 resumes for one position. So if you're the same, I went to seminary, I taught in preschool, I worked in a camp, it's going to be different than if you said, I've been working with children since I was 8 years old. And I'm 18 years old now, and you can admit, don't try to hide your age. So tell us what it is that you've done, how you've engaged. I worked with my mother owned a camp. So I went around and I was the leader. I was, the big macher in the camp. You would want to go out and say that so that we show, okay, this person has a little bit of spirit. There's something a little bit different about that person. Don't try to fake your resume. Please don't try to fake a cover letter. I get so many girls who are graduates of Harvard Law School that you have no idea. I don't understand why some people just love Harvard Law School. I've read so many of these cover letters that, and I go, ay, 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 where they say, okay, they claim to have graduated Harvard Law School and then give as their experience. So back in 8th grade or in 10th grade, I was a camp counselor at Camp Machanayim in the mountains. Well, what does that have to do with being in Harvard Law School? It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Only write about what you know. This is a way for you to, I don't care what you do. I don't care if you clean houses, if you're the best babysitter on the block, it doesn't make a difference to me. It doesn't make a difference to the grader. Be yourself and write from what you know. Do not write from somebody else's. Show me who you are. And please do not cut and paste cover letters from your father, which is what we've had before, from your father's workplace where he sent over letters, I'm not kidding you, from, Mary Smith, who's now a general engineer and has this perfect cover letter, and the girl who wrote it is 18 years old, and I look her up, and we look her up, and the grader and I look her up and find out that she just came back from seminary, and she knows nothing about engineering, and clearly we call her up and we say, well, where did you get that from? Oh, I didn't know that I could get it from my father's workplace. Well, you can't. So, sure. No, it is right. A cover letter is not in place. A resume is a resume. A cover letter, what will often do is get you to read. Will get you to read the resume. Don't feel, a lot of people also it's to show us who you are and why you're interesting to us. So always tap into yourself and say, how am I different? Like, you have to think of yourself when going for a job. You say, look, I'm a realist. This is a real world. I know that there are 100 people applying for that job. What can I do? What do I have in my background that's going to make me better than everybody else and capture the attention of anybody else? And it might be a small thing. I'll give you an example. My brother hires people. He is he's head of the legal department and of the IT department in medical school in Chicago. And we were talking about this one day, and he put an ad in the newspaper he was doing for some database administrator that they needed. So in one day, they got over 400 resumes came in. So now they have to go sort through the resume, and everybody's the same. Everybody has certifications, and everybody has college degrees, and everybody's this. And then you take out the ones without the college degrees, you start to sort through. The person who got the job was actually a fisherman because he wrote down what he likes to do in his spare time. He says, look, I'm a great database administrator, but in my spare time, I like to sit. I go out to the pier, I take my fishing pole, and I like to sit and relax, and I go fishing. And he got the job based on fishing because clearly his credentials were as good as anybody else. But when my brother read it, he said, oh, wow, I've never seen anybody come out there and say something like that. And he captured and he got the job. So that's the kind of thing you want to do. Yes, you want to be credentialed and you want to show that you're capable of the job, but you want to throw in that little bit of twist that says, I'm a little bit different than everybody else. Okay, to pre-write your cover letter, just go down here, okay. Top 10 strengths. The way to do it too, how do you know who you are? So what you can do is you just how do you evaluate yourself and say, what are my strengths? I don't really know. This is a technique for you to do that. Evaluate your past successes and name skills that made this success. So let's say, okay, so give an example. You say, look, I organized a charity event that raised $3,000. So that the identifiable skill would be that you're good at organization, and that an example would be, so if you worked on a, just don't tell us that you worked in chesed. I did chesed, I worked, at Bikur Cholim. Okay, that doesn't tell me anything. 1,000 girls have done chesed and worked at Bikur Cholim. But if you say to me, I worked on Bikur Cholim's charity event where we did an outside carnival, and I organized this carnival, and we raised that day $3,000. That would make me go, huh, okay, that's something. Okay, so then you can just read this, and oh, your examples should be relevant to the job description of what you want to do as well. So that if you're telling me specifically, you want to be out of the box at a certain point when you're talking about yourself. But in general, when you're talking about, stick to the job description. What are they looking for in the person that they hire? What is their focus? What are they looking for when they run through the resumes? And make sure that your examples fit their description, because again, it's about your audience, your audience, your audience. Now, to also list weaknesses to yourself. You don't have to put your weaknesses out there, but sometimes it shows a certain sense of growth. I'll tell you how. Self-awareness is impressive. It shows maturity. Weaknesses should not be linked in any way to job description. So let's say if I'm looking for a public speaker, and then I say in my cover letter, you're hiring me to be a public speaker, but the truth is I'm terrified of audiences, and I get panic attacks when I go up in front of a crowd. Well, telling somebody that weakness is going to take your resume and throw it in the garbage. But if I'm looking for somebody who's just in a management position, and I say, well, I've overcome, and one of the things that I've overcome, because you don't necessarily have to stay speaking out in public every single day, say, I've overcome my weakness for public speaking by joining Toastmasters. And I've really done well with that. So now I'm much more confident. So that shows, okay, that this is a real person. And it doesn't reflect badly on the person, to be honest. Okay. Next, your cover letter template should have an introduction, a middle, and a last paragraph. Your introduction, introduce yourself, the reason for contacting them, how you heard about the job, if a student, name major work or relevant coursework. And here what I do is your middle paragraph, you can just read this by yourself, and it goes through everything, because I want to go through the part that prepares you for the exam as well. And all of this is really, really very, very clear. You shouldn't have any problem at all. And then also in bullet, it also helps to use bullets for using your middle paragraph 1, 2, and 3. That helps them see clearly what it is that you're offering. Now comes the final exam prep. How do we prepare for the exam? Now, some of you will take the exam first and then go do the assignments. Some people do the assignments first and then take the exam. I don't know which order you do it in. So the exam prep has what we do is there's a lot of information here that might not be on the test, that's only relevant to when you're writing your assignments. So this is more towards the assignments. The components of communication, this is also to the assignments. The importance of communication here, this part here is really important for your exam, that you understand that there's a business and a personal social setting when we communicate. And this is very clear, but I would concentrate and I would start to study from here. We have the info, everything that you need for the test is going to be in here. You basically have to study this information along the way. And if you study everything else that's down in here, you should have no problem. Everything is very, very clear. The informal communication network is also known as the grapevine. But study. Sometimes it looks easy, and then the people come to the test and they really don't know. Direction for formal communication, isn't that important? Verbal communication barriers is not that important. nonverbal communication barriers. Well, we're talking about, this would be important because we're talking about the way people perceive things. So this would be the way nonverbal communication barriers are. Sometimes it's, if you're talking about different cultures, this is important because people have different ways of standing that might be insulting. For Japanese, there's etiquette courses that are given so that people, when have to do business with people for different cultures around the world, you don't want to say something which is inappropriate or act in a certain way that is inappropriate, like shaking hands. Some people don't. Some people bow as if you're in the Asian audience. Traditional communication channels, written communication, oral, these are all, everything in here is basically, I really don't have to go through the rest of this. It's going to be everything, the rest of all these slides will tell you exactly what you need to do to get through to your exam. So I've taken up over an hour of your time. If anybody has any further questions after studying for the exam and they don't find it clear, they are welcome to contact me and I will clarify it for them. Oh yeah, can you do? The questions on the exam will be, I can't give you the questions on the exam, but I can tell you that if you study these slides well, you won't have a problem. That's as much as I can do without giving away the questions themselves. But they're basically here from these slides. Okay.
Okay. The exam are a series of essay questions, short essays. I mean, I think there's about you'll get about 20 short essay questions on the exam. The questions aren't going to be long hypotheticals like you have in the assignments. The questions are going to be more like, explain when oral communication might be appropriate as opposed to written communication, or a question on this slide might be something like, give an example of a body movement that might be able to segue with a message that you're giving, or something to that effect. We're not going to, the exam questions are not going to be overly complex, and they're really based on these slides. So as long as you know the information that's on these slides, some of it might actually be, be pretty self-explanatory or be almost intuitive, be the sort of thing that you might know anyway, even without these slides. But obviously, we do very strongly recommend that you go through these slides and, try to, you don't have to commit every word of it to memory, but understand the concepts. If you understand these concepts, generally speaking, you should be fine. Now, I am going to put our email address, general email address. You can put it, you can send any email regarding any of our courses here, and it will be then forwarded to the appropriate person. This is our email address, info@coopersmithcc.net. So please feel free to send us an email, again, about anything, because that's obviously, it's not going to be the same person that's going to respond no matter what your question is, but it can be forwarded to whomever has the expertise in that area. So we hope that you'll certainly take advantage of that. And thank you very much. And again, so we thank everybody for coming to this. We're going to try to make this sort of thing a regular feature. We had one last week for math. We'll set up another one, over the course of the next. Yes, we are going to. We have been recording the session. I'm just going to stop the recording in a few minutes. I am going to send the link to the recording, and it will hopefully be disseminated to everybody. If over the next few days it's not disseminated to you and you'd like to get a copy, you can email us directly, and we can send you a copy. We can send you a link to the same Dropbox area where you saw the material a little above that I posted before. We will be able to do that. Yes, there is a recording from math for last week. In fact, that I can actually find for you right now. If I can give you the link to it now. If you just give me 1 minute over here, I'll find it, and I can actually give you the link to the math recording. Where is it? That was from 12/11. All right, there we go. All right, there we go. That should lead you to the math. We did not do anyone for science yet. We are, again, this is kind of a pilot over the last, this weekend, last week, and I think generally speaking, we are definitely planning on doing more sessions in the future. Yeah, okay, so I just tested the link. The one I just gave you should work for last week's math, and we'll obviously send out notifications of any further ones. I would imagine the next session will probably be maybe the second Sunday in January. I imagine we're not going to have one next week or 2 weeks. I know a lot of people might be having Hanukkah parties and whatnot. I know I am. So probably January 8th, I imagine, will be the next one, and it'll the information, the link, and all that will be sent out in the same way as the ones for this one. So the next one will probably be on science in general, maybe not specifically earth science, but maybe it'll be a combined one for life processes and earth science, and obviously we'll field questions for that. So I guess with that in mind, I guess we will wrap it up for today. Again, I definitely appreciate everybody coming, because without people coming, then it would be kind of pointless. We would just be talking to ourselves. So we definitely appreciate everybody coming, and we hope that people will come to future sessions that are relevant to them. And we encourage you to contact us if you have any questions or comments or feedback or anything to that effect. So thank you very much. Sure, go ahead, no problem. You can hang on for a question. In fact, I'll keep the recording on for the time being. Okay, history of psychology. Yes, history and systems of psychology is a Coopersmith class as well. Well, the quizzes are based on the big PowerPoint. You may have noticed that there are two PowerPoints in the folder. There's a big one that's about 300 slides long, and then there's a little one that is about, I don't know, 60 or 70 slides long or whatever it is. The one for the entire course is the one that the quizzes are based on, because that's based on the entire course and the quiz is based on the entire course, whereas the final exam is based on the crash course. So what we recommend is to do the entire course, because that'll give you all the breadth of information that's relevant to the course. But for the final exam, it is sufficient to go through specifically the crash course one. So the crash course one is a much smaller one. It's much more easy to learn. That's the one that. But the quizzes are based on the entire course, based on all the materials in the 300-slide PowerPoint. So some of the questions are going to focus on things that are covered in the crash course, but then there are going to be some questions that are covered that focus on things that are not in the crash course but are in the larger course in general. But the exam is limited to the material that's covered in the crash course PowerPoint, which is the smaller PowerPoint.